Good day. So today we'll be working on a question paper from the 7th of November 2024 from BPCL, Basic Principles of Computer Programming and Computer Literacy. So we will start with the first question. The first question is a program which you need to create for using the software Scratch. So it's basically a program for a seaside resort where you enter the number of rooms and enter the number of days and number of guests, and your program is able to calculate the total cost. Okay, so for this program, we've been given an IPO table which we will use when we're calculating. So you can have a look at this. Okay, so let's start the program. Okay, so we're starting with the 1.1 create a Scratch application. So on my computer, I opened Scratch. I clicked to open Scratch. The new application is created. So next, they say set the stage of the background. Set the stage to any background of your choice. Let me set the stage to be this background. So in Scratch, you come here and select the background. So it's called a backdrop. So I selected the beach Rio. It's the same as the one here in the question paper. So that's 1.11 mark. Then 1.2, change the sprites by choosing an option from the people category. So let's change the sprite to be a person. Okay, so in Scratch, we can come and remove, right click, I can delete the cat sprite, and I can choose a sprite which is a person. Here's Steven. So I think it's the same sprites in the question paper. Okay, so that is 1.2 for 1 mark. Then 1.3, declare all appropriate variables and set the values to 0 at the start of the program. So these are all of the variables we need to declare. So in total, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variables. Let's start declaring the variables. So I start with the first variable, which is number of days. So in Scratch, I go to variables, then I click on make a variable, and I'll type the name of the variable. It should be called number of days. So that's variable number one. Then I'll go to the next variable, number of guests, make a variable. Same thing for the next variable, which is called accommodation. Okay, so then the next variable is shuttle. Then, then the next variable after shuttle is discounts. Then after discounts, the last variable is called total cost. Okay, so those are all of the variables. So the next part of the question, it said the first one said declare all appropriate variables. Then it said set the values to 0 at the start of the program. So what we need to do is in Scratch, we need to go and add the events. When clicked and we go to variables, we go add the sets for each variable. I'll start with number of days. So under variables, I go to a set and select number of days. you need to drag this for each variable. So I started with number of days, you need to do it up until cost. Okay, so let me pause, but you know that you need to do this for all these. Okay, so I've set all of the variables which I have to 0. So that was this instruction, which is instruction number 1.4. Then instruction number 1.5 says display the variables on the stage as shown in figure 1. So all of these variables will be shown on the stage. As you can see, they appear here. If I did not want them to appear, I was going to uncheck these checkboxes. So that's already done by default. The next 1.5 says prompts the user for the number of days spent at the resort and store the answer in an appropriate variable. So we need to ask the user, like in the screen, how many days they spent, and we need to save that response in the variable number of days. So let's prompt the user. So we go to Scratch and we go and add a ask. So we need to ask a user something. So we need to come here to sensing and drag and look for something called ask and wait. So we drag a ask and wait. Then we need to type the question which the user will see. The question is, how many days are you staying for? So let's type this question here. Okay, so after asking the user the question, then you need to, the response which the user has provided must be saved on the variable's number of days. So in order for us to do that, we need to we need to go to variables and drag a set. The variable we are changing is number of days. Okay, so we want number of days to have the response which the user provided here. So we need to drag something called an answer and put it over here. So the answer will contain the response which the person selected here. So let's go to, I think it's sensing, and look for something which is called answer. Here's the answer. We need to drag it over here. So that was that instruction over here. Instruction number 1.5. So instruction number 1.6, it says prompts the user for number of guests and store the answer in the appropriate variable. So just like in the screen here, you need to ask a user how many guests are staying over, and you save that response in the variable number of guests. So let's do this in Scratch. So we need to go to sensing and drag a ask. Then we will ask the user how many guests are staying over. So we type that question there. After I ask a user question, you need to go to variables and drag a set. This will this will assign the answer which the user provided. So, and after dragging sets, you need to select number of guests. Then you go to sensing and you drag something called answer. Answer will contain the response which the user provided. So that was this question here, number 1.6 for 2 marks. Then number 1.7, it says calculate the accommodation cost and store the answer in the appropriate variables. To calculate this, we go to the IPO table and see how it's calculated. So it's showing us how it calculates accommodation. So to calculate accommodation, it is accommodation times 500 times days times guest. So let's go and calculate accommodation. So in Scratch, We go to variables. The variable we are changing is accommodation. So I drag a set. After dragging a set, I can select accommodation. Then to calculate accommodation, we are multiplying three items, 500 days and guest. So what we need to do is we need to go over here and look for something for multiplication here under operators. We're performing two multiplications, so you need to drag two multiplications. So I drag the first one, then I drag the second one over here. So then, just like in the question paper, I will type 500, then drag days, then drag guess. So here I type 500, then go to variables, I drag number of days. After number of days, it is number of guests. So it will multiply all of these three to get the value for accommodation. So that is 1.7 for 2 marks. Then 1.8, calculate the shuttle cost and store the answer in the appropriate variable. So here on top in the IPO table, they show us how to calculate the shuttle. So shuttle is 20 times number of days times guest. So let's go calculate shuttle. So we need to go and drag a set and select shuttle. That's the variable we are changing. So we drag shuttle. Then we go to operators, we drag two multiplication operators. Then the formula which we are given, it's 20 times number of days multiplied by guest. So over here, I type 20 and under variables, I drag number of days. Then after number of days, it is number of guests. So that's how you calculate shuttle. So next, they say, so after calculating the shuttle, they say number 1.9, say calculate the discount by using a nested if-else block. So here's it's showing us here inside the IPO table, how do we calculate our guest? They say if more than 10 guests, it shows us how we calculate discount. Then they say else, it shows us here if more than 5 guests, how we calculate discount. So let's go and so we need to go and add a if, and we need to go and add a else if. So let's go and add these symbols. So we go to Scratch. So we go to Control and we drag an if. So let me do it this way. I drag a if. After dragging a if, I need to go add a else. Okay, so let's not use if. Okay, so let's do it this way. Let's add a if else. Inside the if else, let's add the if here at the bottom. So that's what we did. We added a if else. Then in the else section of the if else, we added an if. So now let's check. They said in the if else, they said you check if more than 10 guests. So you're checking if there are more than 10 guests. So over here, you need to go and look for a greater than sign because you want to check are there more than 10 guests. So over here, go and add a greater than sign over here. Then here you go to variables. What are we checking? We are checking if there are more than 10 guests. So we're checking if number of guests is greater than 10. So they told us that if the number of guests are greater than 10, they told us that this is how we calculate discount. So I need to go and add a variable which is called the set to calculate this discount. So I go and add the set and I select discount in sets. I add it here. After adding a set, I need to go and add two symbols. One is a multiplication, the other is a division symbol. So that I multiply and divide. Okay, so in Scratch, I want to start by dividing, then multiply. So I add the symbol which of what needs to be done last. So I add the multiplication that will be done last. Then I add the division over here. So what are we calculating? How dividing to 20 divided by 100? So here I type 20. After division sign, I type 100. Then after the 100, we have accommodation. So I need to go and add the variable for accommodation over here. So now that's done. So next, I go to else if, and I check are there more if more than 5 guests. So here I'm checking. So I need to go look for a greater than sign. So I'm checking if the number of guests is greater than 5. So if the number of guests are greater than 5, they show us that discount is 10 divided by 100 multiplied by accommodation. So I need to go drag a set. What I'm changing is discount. Place it here. After the set, I need two symbols. Just like here, I need a division sign and a multiplication sign. So I will start with dividing. So I will add the multiplication sign first, then add the division sign. So over here, I go to operators, multiplication first, then division sign. So what are we dividing? It is 10 divided by 100. So here I type 10 divided by 100. After 10 divided by 100, multiplied by accommodation. So here I drag the variable accommodation. Okay, so we're done with this question. We were on 1.9. Then 1.10, calculate the total cost. So we need to use the IPO table to see how the total cost is calculated. So over here, we see the total cost is accommodation plus shuttle minus discounts. So let's go calculate the total cost. So here, I add the sets and I select total cost. Add it here at the bottom. So total cost is calculated as accommodation plus shuttle minus discount. So I want to add first, then subtract. So in Scratch, I'll start with by adding the subtraction sign first. Then I'll add the addition because I want to start by adding. So what I do is I need to go with the sign of what needs to be done last. Okay, so then over here it's accommodation, shuttle, and discounts. So under variables, I add accommodation, I add shuttle, and I subtract by the discount. Okay, so this question here was question number 1.10. Then question number 1.11, they say display the total cost to the user for 5 seconds, include an appropriate message. So we need to display the total cost for 5 seconds, just like over here. So for 5 seconds, so we need to go. So we need to go to say and add the say here at the bottom, and here we type 5 seconds. After adding the say, so what I want to be able to say is I want to say message, the total cost for the holiday is, and add the number. So I'm showing two different things. So I need to have a join so that I show the text and the amount or the value of the variable. So here in Scratch, you need to go add something which is called a join. Here's a join to show two separate items. And then I need to type the message. The total cost of the holiday is. And I add the R for rand. Then here, where it says banana, I need to add the variable, which is total cost. So that is number 1.11, display the total cost. Then number 1.12 says make a screenshot of the code and paste it in Microsoft Word. So this is the code. So that's what is shown over here. So you can zoom in, zoom out in such a way that it shows all of the code. So once it shows all of the code, you can press print screen on your keyboard and try to crop everything. So it didn't crop everything on mine. So let me try and zoom out a bit, but try to maximize it as much as possible. So I press print screen, I take a screenshot of the code, then I go and open Microsoft Word. So I go and paste in Microsoft Word. So this is what you need to print when they say print out the code. Okay, so next. Okay, so next. They say test the program with the following values. So we need to test the programs by adding 5 number of days and 7 number of guests. So we go to our program. Let me start by stopping it and start. So it's asking me here. And let me stop and try to move. Stop, starts. How many days? They told us we need to stay for 5 days. Press enter. How many guests? You need to have 7 guests. Press enter. So then here's the output you need to have. So the output you have over here should be the same as the output which we're seeing over here. Then they say make a screen print of the scratch code, include the heading and question number and okay, sorry, we were on 1.13. In 1.13, you need to make a screenshot of the output while it's showing. So let me start again. So 5, enter, 7, enter. Then you click on this button so that it maximizes and you print screen. So it should take a picture of all of this. Then you open and you go and paste this on a new document in Microsoft Word. Okay, so this is what needs to be printed. So they said we need to have include our question number and examination number in our document. So in this document, let me add my question number, which is your your examination number, which is your ID number, and the question number. So this was question number 1.13. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Thank you.